The debate on what Howie Roseman should do with that 10th overall pick finally ends tonight. The NFL draft starts tonight. We're going to do final talk, final prep for round one here. And trending in the AM, it starts in 30 seconds.
Fourth and goal.
And a very good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trending in the AM right here on Philadelphia Sports Network. We're live, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, tweet, follow, share, turn notifications on, tell a friend. Do it all. Tell everybody this is the best morning show in the Philadelphia area. It's the first YouTube morning show always, and it is the best. I am your host, Phil Stiefel. We are talking draft today, so drop those NFL draft and Eagles comments, thoughts, questions. I got to shout it out. Yesterday was insane on this show. You know, we've been here for about 3.5 weeks now doing this on Philadelphia Sports Network. And, man, there are 40, 50 people watching at a time. Over 250 people watched the show on YouTube yesterday. Never had anything like that happen before. So this is the place to get interactive, to drop your questions. Like Kyle, right off the bat saying today is draft day. I can't wait. I'm excited. We finally get to see the answer to the question. Is it Jalen Carter? Is it Bijan Robinson? Is it trade up? Is it stay pat or trade back? Is it a wide receiver or a running back, a lineman? You know, what Howie does, nobody knows. But we end that conversation today. We're going to get to debate it one more time today. And then tomorrow when we go live, I got Shane Half from the Bleeding Green Nation and Edge of Philly. He's going to be joining me. We'll recap it. We'll look ahead to day 2 and day 3 of the draft. But today, it's all about the final conversation. Is it Bijan Robinson or Jalen Carter? Today is the big day that I don't talk about the Philadelphia Stars. Sorry, not today. Not today. Today's all NFL. And if you got comments or questions, if you're watching for any of your teams, we can debate them all. I know Need a Lot of Football's a Bills fan. I don't know what the Bills are going to do yet. We'll get to that if you want to. So the question is, who does Howie Roseman draft? And I want to look at the big picture of the Eagles here a little bit, where the Eagles are. I don't want Bijan at 10. I think we can get Spears or Gibbs later. We could definitely get Spears or Gibbs later. And Kyle, I don't know if you caught the part of the show where we were talking yesterday. Nick Ferry, a great reporter for Philadelphia Sports Network, joined me. We were comparing Bijan and the hype, not the player, but the hype to Ricky Williams, and how New Orleans traded so much to get Ricky Williams, and Ricky Williams was good, but was it worth it all that he traded away? They traded away to get him? No. So that whole valuing a running back thing, you know, really comes into play with Bijan. Bijan could be a generational talent that might go down as one of the 2 or 3 best players in this draft. But are you willing to risk the draft capital and the money associated with that slot to get Bijan Robinson? You've really got to weigh both sides of the equation. There was a guy flexing for hours talking, who going to beat Eagles? Nobody. Going on. Well, you know, I won't lie. You know, if the Eagles go out and get Bijan Robinson or go out and get Njoku, you know, and continue to add to this offense, who will beat the Eagles? At least in the NFC? Nobody. But you got to look at, you know, this is the draft to trade back these players in the 3rd round. Wide receivers, Will Anderson. You know, I don't disagree ever with a team trading back. It depends on your window. And right now the Eagles are in a prime position. They have the 10th overall pick on a Super Bowl performing team, a Super Bowl level team. So do you really want to trade back and accumulate more assets, or do you want to grab the most impactful player available that helps continue that, you know, march to another Super Bowl appearance? Because next year, unless we trade out of this 10th pick, and we're going to go through some of these top 10s here and stuff like that in a minute, how it could play out for the Eagles. But you've got an opportunity to grab somebody right now that's going to continue making an immediate impact. Prime position to walk out of this draft with 2 impact. And that's the thing. Like, David, I don't know how much you've watched this show in the 3.5 weeks I've been on this network or my previous networks. Like, I am all in on this draft. Like, I am, if I was Howie, like, and it was very sarcastic, David, but about 3 weeks ago on my Twitter page, at Bearded Knowledge, I did a mock draft where I traded all of our first and second round picks for next year and the year after that. And I picked up Jalen Carter, Bijan Robinson, and Jackson Smith-Njigba. I just slam dunked our offense, made it the best offense in football. And I picked up, in my opinion, the best defensive player in this draft. Like, I'm all in. Like, I know it's sarcastic to plot. I found a way to make it happen. It's not going to happen. But if you can find an impactful offensive player and an impactful defensive player that make a difference day one, we are in the Super Bowl, no doubt about it, next year. And I think that is really what we need to do this year. I would really work to trade back to like 17 and get Bijan there. That's interesting. So, I mean, obviously, we're going to go through it. One of the options to get Bijan later in the first round. Now, there's 3 scenarios here with the Bijan situation. The Eagles just take him at 10 if he's there. He might not be there. I do see a scenario where Bijan Robinson goes to the Falcons with what? I have 2 different draft boards up, the players and the order. The Falcons are 8. There's enough smoke that the Falcons could take Bijan at 8. And that would be very Falcons-like, not having a quarterback, but Gibbs and Jalen would be perfectly fine in the backfield. If you want to get Gibbs at 30, I will not argue with that whatsoever. This draft will be unprecedented amount of trades of players. Yeah, that's something I was gonna get into that too. But you still gotta find, to go back to trading back for Bijan. I think if he doesn't go at 8 to the Falcons, if he doesn't go to 10 at the Eagles, can you trade back to, if one of the quarterbacks falls, if Anthony Richardson falls? That's the thing. If Anthony Richardson or Will Levis, one of these quarterbacks falls and is available at 10, will Tampa Bay at 19 ring Howie's phone and be like, we'll give you a first rounder next year if we can move from 19 up to 10? Because if you look at it, if 11, Tennessee could take a quarterback, but probably not. I think Houston at 12 already has a quarterback, but in their second pick, Green Bay at 13 won't take one. New England won't. The Jets won't. Washington won't. Pittsburgh won't. Detroit won't. So can you do that? But then you see, will Bijan fall all the way to 19? Because I really, truly believe there's 2 teams. The Chargers at 22 and the Cowboys at 27. They both, in my opinion, really want Bijan Robinson. Let's see here. We got so many comments. I was looking at another screen. Carter and Gibbs. I'd be okay with Carter and Gibbs. I mean, and that would be a slam dunk night if we walked away with Jalen Carter and Gibbs. Never take a quarterback in first. I mean, quarterbacks go. My opinion has been the same for years on this show, because this is a new show on Philadelphia Sports Network, but I've been doing this for years, this show. I think way too many quarterbacks get drafted way too early in a draft, which makes them get too much undue pressure put on them. They're normally drafted in the first 2, like this year. C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, these guys, Will Levis, are going to get drafted and forced to play, and they're not ready to play. And they're going to teams that are already bad, don't even have cultures established yet. So they're being set up to fail. Little Mac Jones to the Texans, that's weird. Chase Young gets traded. I mean, I would have to get my ref the district guys in here to ask about that. I don't know what's going on with Washington that they didn't pick up his 5th-year option. I know he's been injured, but I think you take their first next year. I think they will. Yeah, I mean, that's possible. I would definitely take it. It's, if you trade back to 19, the question is Bijan still there? Because I think if you trade back to 19, then the Chargers and the Cowboys, who I think both want Bijan, like, oh, that's going to be the Eagles' move. Now we've got to trade up to 15, 16, 17 to get Bijan. So that's why this year's draft, I've said it all week, I've said it for 2 weeks, is going to be one of the most unpredictable. You're going to see more trades this year than in recent memory that I can imagine. So many teams are going to be moving up, moving back, this and that, depending on how the draft board falls. Never take a running back in the first. Always swing for. Look, I don't. See, the thing is, with the running back conversation, a lot of people, Yeah, Baker is horrible. Did more successful commercials than actual playing football. The thing with the running back is we've gotten away from drafting running backs early, and I get it, and I understand why. But the problem is, if you're a generational talent, whatever happened to just drafting the best player in the draft? Like if you look at it, I got ESPN's, rankings of these players, the best available. Bijan Robinson is ranked the second best player on ESPN this draft. You could take ESPN's rankings and mix them with other rankings. Like if a guy is that talented to be in the top 5 of a major organization's rankings this year, I know you don't take running backs in the first round, but if he's that good, why wouldn't you? Now, I wouldn't risk, trading other assets to move up to get Bijan, like someone like the Cowboys might, or the Chargers might. Which why I don't know. Just make Austin Eckler happy. It's so hard to evaluate who's going to do what because, like as we talked yesterday, we talked Nick Ferry on, and he was given scenarios like I literally know very little bit of Will Anderson. Okay, I know he's a great player. I know he's a great edge rusher. I know the Eagles had 70 sacks, but you can never have too many edge rushers. I never did any work preparing to talk about Will Anderson. Why? Because I just assumed he was going to go 3rd or 4th overall, and Will Anderson was going to be off the board. Now, Nick Faria yesterday, and I respect what Nick says, mapped out a way. Well, Nick Faria falls and could be at 10 or a small trade up to 8 to get Will Anderson. That's how unpredictable this draft is. Mel Kiper, and I'm sure Todd McShay's got something else. Mel Kiper and Todd McShay, I mean, Kyle, no offense. I don't know who's more inaccurate and more higher paid, weathermen or women, weather people, or ESPN and national mock draft experts. Nobody knows what they're doing. They just throw stuff out there. It's going to rain. It's not going to rain. This guy's going to go here. This guy's going to go there. They're never right. But what they do is they make these mocks off of what they're hearing through the media, what they're projecting these teams, where they think these guys, team needs. I was the Eagles, who are perfectly built. The O-line is great. Grab Bijan, get that ring. I mean, it's a scenario. I mean, as a Buffalo fan, don't you want Buffalo to get Bijan? Buffalo hasn't had a running back since Shady McCoy. Would you rather have a top 5 quarterback? Yeah. We need a backup tight end. We need a safety. And that's another thing. We didn't even get to safety yesterday. There's all these scenarios. You trade back to 19 with Tampa Bay. You pick up their first next year. They're going to be dog shit, so it's going to be another high first rounder next year. And then at 19, if he's there, you take Branch, the safety, the best safety in the draft. Now, the best safety in the draft, Branch, I mean, he was falling back. He might have been there at 30 at a point. Now he's starting to slide up the draft board now. 19 might be the latest you can get somebody like Branch. So if I'm reading your question right, King Oliver, if Carter's not there and Bijan is gone, would we take Gibbs? At 10, no. But at 30, absolutely. Hell, if they really like Gibbs, which there are rumors that the Eagles organization is very high on Gibbs, there's a chance Gibbs, if depending on how the board falls, you could see the Eagles move from 30 up to 28, 27. It won't cost you much to do that, just to make sure they get the guy. I just think that, no. Bills need to build a line. Absolutely they do. Absolutely they do. Here's the thing. Where there's smoke, there's fire. You just signed Jalen Hurts to a $255 million contract. I disagree. I think he can go 8 to Atlanta. I think he can go 10 to the Eagles. Hell, if the reason we're talking about Bijan to the Eagles would be the same reason for Chicago to go get him, to pair him with Justin Fields. The same philosophy works. The thing with Bijan is the rumor mills, the conversations he's having with the media. He's met in person with only 2 teams, one being Philly. I believe his agent is the same as Jalen Hurts. He constantly talks in the media that he wants to play with Jalen Hurts. So King Oliver, we are not taking Gibbs at 10. I would bet $1,000 that Gibbs at 10 is not happening. You get him at 30, you don't get him there. He's a great running back, don't get me wrong. A great potential there, but there's only one running back that can go in the top 20 even, and that's Bijan. But if you connect the dots with Bijan and all the conversations and how many times have we heard him quoted in a media channel saying, I want to play with Jalen. I want to play for the Eagles. I want to be in Midnight Green. You got to connect the dots to know that you want to keep your quarterbacks happy. If Jalen Hurts wants Bijan Robinson here, you better believe Howie's going to do whatever it takes. If they pass on Bijan for whatever reason, then I'd be surprised. Like I guarantee Howie has learned. It can't be just Howie's way or the highway. Howie's learned, and he's gotten better over the last few years communicating with Nick Sirianni, with his staff, with everybody. I'm like, who do we want? Not who do I want. Howie's been a really good GM for a few years now. And he's better GM than we've given him credit for over the last 10 years, 15 years, whatever it is. But he has grown and matured and changed how he does things. And it's really got to be about what's best for the organization, not what I think. And if Jalen wants, if Nick Sirianni wants, if everybody wants Bijan, you got to keep your quarterback happy. You got to keep your coach happy. So I think there is a very strong chance it happens. The better the O-line, more time quarterback. Absolutely. Look, the O-line for the Eagles, we all talk about how great it is. Running back is a luxury. I mean, you look at what the Chiefs did. I mean, Pincheiro went what? In the 7th round last year? And he was an effective running back for that team into the Super Bowl. I don't know his size. I don't know how long-term he's going to be able to play the way he did in the Super Bowl. But, offensive line. We talk about how great the Eagles' offensive line is. It's an amazing offensive line. We know that. We're still missing a right guard. We could slide Cam Jurgens over there. I don't know how I feel about that. You got Skorancic, or again, another one of those names that I'm going to have to learn if he gets drafted. Peter Skoronski, that's going to be there. He could play guard right from the get-go. It's not the sexy pick. But if he's there at 10, if Jalen Carter's not there, if Will Anderson's not there, if Howie Roseman doesn't trade up to get Jalen Carter or Will Anderson, and he's sitting there at 10, Bijan Robinson and Skoransky are both there. Nobody's calling to trade up to 10. It's not the sexy pick, but Skoransky might be the pick at 10. And you're going to hear all the Bijan supporters freaking out and whatnot, and then he goes to the Cowboys later on, and we freak out, and this and that. Look, Skoransky is very, very viable at 10, and it's a smart pick. You think about it, 10 years ago, this week, 2 days ago, we picked Lane Johnson with the 4th overall pick. A lot of Eagles fans didn't want Lane Johnson. You had Deion Jordan, who the Dolphins jumped us to get, complete bust. They wanted the cornerback, D. Milner. D. Milner was a bust. There were quarterbacks available at the time. There were wide receivers. There were so many players. If you go back and look at the 2013 draft and look at the first round, there were a lot of busts in 2013. Kyle saying I'd rather Van Ness over Skoransky. Again, Van Ness is another guy that could go 10. Like, that's the thing. Like, well, we don't know what Howie's thinking. We don't know what Howie's big board is. Nobody's leaked a snapshot of a coach with the board in the background this year. I have no idea. But see, if Van Ness is your pick over Skoransky, can you trade back 5 spots? Is there a team? Let me look at the board again here. If he's there, if Bijan's there, if a bunch of players are there, and you're looking at the board, do you trade back to Green Bay, who might want a new lineman to protect Jordan Love? Do the Jets need another lineman at 15? Do they trade up and make a move? Washington, who knows what they're doing? Maybe. I mean, there's so many options there. Can you trade back to? I still look at 3 scenarios: the staying at 10, trading up to get Carter or Anderson, and trading back to 19. And I think if you trade back to 19, there's a sweet spot there that you could get a lot of value. If Tampa gets desperate for a quarterback, if they really like Richardson or Will Levis or whoever that's starting to slip, you could get next year's first rounder from Tampa to move from 19 to 10 and us back to 19. And if you're still at 19, you're still looking at some really high quality players. You can get Kalia Cansey might be there at 19 for you. The Jigba still might be there. Nolan Smith could fall. Lucas Van Ness can fall. These are all names. Paris Johnson might fall, and you still get a lineman. Miles Murphy might fall. Or you take the safety in Brian, is it Brian Branch? You could still get all those players. One or two of them will be available at 19. Do you want to go all in right now, move up, make sure you get Anderson, make sure you get, Carter? Do you stay at 10 and take the best player available? You move up, you're securing your defense to be a top-tier elite defense this year again. Because I know we bitched about our defense, but ranking-wise, it was still a very good overall defense last year. 70 sacks says something about your defense. But you go and get Carter or Anderson, now you're just taking that defense. You might be able to match the 70 sacks again next year if you go get one of those guys. You stay at 10, you take the best, or do you trade back? Staying at 10 or moving up, you're going all in. The Eagles are all in no matter what, but you're going all in to get an elite blue chip player that's going to make an immediate impact. Somebody at 19, depending on who falls there, might not be the immediate impact. Like a safety, you take Brian Branch, he's going to start day one, whatever organization drafts him, wherever it is in the draft. But a safety is a little different of a position than defensive line or offensive line or running back. There's a lot more to learn as that back-end safety of the defenses. They might not make the immediate impact. Kyle Hamilton. We all wanted Kyle Hamilton last year. We all thought he'd go to 5, I think it was, to Baltimore last year. He didn't. He fell. He was there for the Eagles. We passed over him. He fell all the way to like 15, went to the Ravens, and we were all up in arms. And he didn't have an amazing first season. He had a good season, not an amazing season, because safety's a little harder to adjust to when you get to the NFL. So who knows what happens? Trading back makes sense, big picture, the next 4 or 5 years of this team. But 2023, what makes sense, drafting Bijan Robinson at 10 makes sense for 2023. Hell, I said it before, Jackson Smith and Njoku makes sense at 10 if you're trying to win a Super Bowl in 2023. Was he? I don't know. For some reason, I don't even remember what he did last year, Kyle Hamilton. I really don't. Like, something about the Lamar Jackson situation distracted me from, like, focusing in on whatever else was happening there. For some reason, I don't remember seeing one highlight of Kyle Hamilton last year. So I'm just assuming. My bad if he wasn't all pro. A quiet, great year. Well, that maybe that's the thing. Maybe because he wasn't having 6 interceptions in 12 games like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Maybe because of that. Maybe I didn't notice him in the highlights of Ravens games I watched. So that's my bad if he wasn't all pro last year. That literally is a shock to my system. It actually now in my head is pissing me off because I really did want him last year, and we got Jordan Davis, which I still love Jordan Davis, but yeah. Was he are you kidding? I'm not gonna doubt you. I'm not going to fact check you. If he was the number 1 graded safety last year, I'm totally shocked by that. That's hilarious. Safety scouting is hard to figure out. It is. It takes PFF with a grain of salt, at least. Some of their stuff's really good. Some of it, it's kind of interesting. But anyway, the point is, I think that you get more of an impactful player if you stay at 10 or move up than if you move back to 19 or if you move back to wherever it may be. But what about if they move back to 16, 18, 19, and then they take 30 and they move up? Or where's the scenario that they draft at 10 and then they take 30 and move up depending on how the board falls? This is the thing. It is so unpredictable what's going to happen. Because you think about last year. We traded up to get Jordan Davis, right? And we thought that was an impactful move. And then Howie shocks us and also trades that 18th pick, whatever it was, to get A.J. Brown. Is that the other scenario? We've hardly talked about it. I don't think it's a legit going to happen rumor. It's a rumor that might have been discussed or leaked to the media to change values of draft players. Like, we're not going to really want Bijan Robinson because we're really doing this. It's the Derrick Henry rumor. Last year, we trade for A.J. Brown on draft night. That was not. I'm sure when I did this show, this day last year, we were not talking about, well, A.J. Brown might be an Eagle tonight, when the night's over. I'm sure that was nowhere on the board. The Eagles could shock us. Howie Roseman could shock us. He could take somebody at 10 and then turn that 30th pick into Derrick Henry. I would never trade the 30th pick for Derrick Henry. Let me throw that out there first off. I'm trading 3rd round or 4th round or 5th round picks. That's it for somebody like Derrick Henry. Because Tennessee wants to get rid of him, because he's got a big contract, he's got a lot of wear and tear. Not saying he's not a good player, great player. but I'm not trading the first round pick for a 29-year-old running back. That's if we're arguing whether you draft Bijan Robinson and whether that's the right thing to do, then you're definitely not trading a first round pick for Derrick Henry. That's ridiculous. But is there that kind of move that Howie Roseman's working on? You know, if you run the mock draft simulators on PFF and all these other sites, you know, if you do it, they spit out trades to you. And they've programmed this with algorithms and different things for teams that are trying to move. You constantly, if you run mock drafts, you constantly get offered trades for Josh Jacobs or Nick Chubb. They're guys that are on their teams that might be on their way out. I don't want to trade for, if we're going to improve our running back core from what we have, Kenny Gainwell, you know, Boston Scott, you know, Rashad Penny. If we're going to upgrade that, Trey Sermon, it's going to be with Bijan or Gibbs or one of the rookies. Will Levis, he could fall. I mean, who knows where he's going to go. If we walk away with one of Carter or Gibbs, I'm a happy man. Absolutely. I would too. I would be happy with both. I'd be happy with one of them. But you know, Gibbs, what if we end up with Skoronski and Gibbs? Are you happy? What if we haven't even talked about the cornerbacks? What if we walk away with Gonzalez and Gibbs? Are you happy? I just want to make sure we get one of those impactful defensive players somewhere in this draft. Bijan Robinson makes us the best offense in a long time. Absolutely agree with you on that. Are you losing focus, though, on the big picture of the team with getting Bijan Robinson? I'm not saying if Bijan's there at 10 and Bijan's taken at 10, I'm going to do a cartwheel. Well, not really, because I can't do a cartwheel, but you get what I'm saying. But if Jalen Carter's there and Bijan Robinson's there at 10, I don't know. I don't know how I'll feel about it. Patriots to the second. Van Ness wouldn't be a good pick. I'd like Nolan Smith. See, a buddy of mine told me that the Eagles and Raiders are talking about 738 and 144 for 10 and 30. Now, I don't know who your friend is. I don't know how well knowledgeable they are. Moving up to 7. If you're moving up to 7, you're not getting Nolan Smith at 7. You're doing that to get Jalen Carter or Will Anderson, whichever one slips. And then you get 38, so you get another. You can get Gibbs probably at 38 and 140. I don't know how I value that. 738, 144 for 1030. So you're moving up, you're moving back, you're picking up a 144, which you have no picks in that range. It's not the worst, but if you're doing that, it's funny. Nolan Smith, like 3 weeks ago, was an option for the Eagles at 30. Now the way all the draft experts are talking, he's going to be gone. Like there's people that saying, I think he's odds favorite, the fourth most favorite on the betting boards to go to the Eagles at 10. That's crazy how the draft boards change as we get closer to the draft. Don't you think that's cheating if you can? I mean, we're going to be the best offense, you know? And we've drafted it good enough to take the chance on Bijan. This is actually a great – I love this comment here. We also have such a deep team. Whether we have Bijan or not, we're the favorite in the NFC to make the Super Bowl probably. We are going to compete for a long time. We've got Jalen Hurts. We've got a lot of young players. We've got the chance to make the risk. And Ryan, I might steal this quote. I don't know if you're on Twitter. If you are, send me a DM on Twitter because I want to quote you on this if I can. This is a great comment. We've got the opportunity to take that risk. I love that. I love that philosophy right there. If the Cowboys or another contender take Bijan, see, you know, it's funny because I want it. I'm drawing a blank here. I don't know why I can't think of it. There's so many guys on the Cowboys that I wanted the Eagles to take. Problem is they're stuck on the bad Cowboys, so I can't cheer for them. You know, it is how it plays out sometimes, though. And the Cowboys are going to make a push for Bijan. That's why he's not going to be there at 30. He's not going to be there at 28. The Cowboys are if we trade with the Patriots back to 19, Bijan probably won't be there at 19, so because somebody's going to trade up to get him there. I just want to nab a top 5 talent. Trade up. Exactly. And this very possibly could happen. A top 5 talent. Again, I said it to open the show. When Nick Farrier yesterday said on the show that Will Anderson could slip to the Eagles in a range where they get him 7, 8 if they wanted to move up a little bit. Like, I know Will Anderson's a great player. I know he's one of the best players in this draft. I didn't do any draft prep on Will Anderson because I thought 3. Either the Cardinals take him at 3 or somebody trades up to 3 to take him. Now they're talking that could fall all the way down the board. it just blew my mind. You're going to get, if you draft a 10 or 8, somewhere in that range, if you trade up, you're going to get one of the top 5 talents because 4 quarterbacks are going to go in the first 10 picks. So that means all you got to look at is the other 6 players, and you're going to get one of those. And there's no doubt about it. We are definitely. I mean, I didn't think of it the way you said it there. With this before here, we have the opportunity to take that risk. I'm still stuck. I'm thrown off on all the other comments because I'm thinking about your comment there. I think it's a great way to justify it. Mitchell Rents, who does the Raiders draft on YouTube. Okay, gotcha. I don't know who Rents is. I've never heard of stuff. I'll check it out after the show. But again, 7. If you're trading with if you're making that trade with the Raiders, it's to get one of the blue chip linemen, whether it's Will Anderson, Jalen Carter. I don't think still. I firmly say the only way the Eagles get Jalen Carter is if they trade with Seattle to 5, because I think Detroit takes him at 6. If he's on the board at 6, Detroit's taking Jalen Carter. So if that's the way, and if the draft plays out, if you want to take the Eagles at 7, you would have to say, all right, so 1, Carolina quarterback, 2, Houston. I think they take a quarterback at 2, not later at 12. I think they get their guy, C.J. Stroud there. The Cardinals at 3. Do they take somebody there? Do they trade back? Whoever. I just don't know. That's the thing. I don't know what the Cardinals are thinking. 4, Colts quarterback. 5, Seattle. They could go lineman. They could go. I think they go cornerback at 5. I think that's where the first cornerback goes. 6, Jalen Carter. 7. As long as the Cardinals don't take Will Anderson, by that scenario, Will Anderson's there at 7. It's a very possible thing. Maybe Panthers can give the competition when they're the Panthers aren't going to be good for a long time. Lions and Niners. Lions are going to be better next year, I'm sure. Will Levis be gone by pick 2? Panthers or Patriots? Wow, that's bold. I don't know about that. Bijan or we riot. Look, if you're not following me on Twitter, I got pinned to my profile on Twitter. I got a contest. It's gonna end Monday morning. I'm gonna raffle off whoever the Eagles draft with their first pick. I'm gonna give away a jersey to whoever wins the contest here Monday morning, 8:30 a.m. You got to go to my Twitter page at Beard and Knowledge to enter. It is pinned to the top. You just got to like, follow, retweet, whatever, and comment Bijan or we riot, and you're entered. We're gonna give away, if it's Bijan, a Bijan Robinson Eagles jersey. It's just so unpredictable because there's so many teams here. If you look at this top 10, we know what Carolina's doing. We kind of know what Texans are doing, either at 2 or 11, 12. They're drafting a quarterback. The Cardinals are just the one that we just don't know. We know the Colts want a quarterback. It's what happens with the Cardinals there. And the problem is the Cardinals organization's kind of, up in arms right now. They got new coaching. Kyler Murray's situation is insane. I don't know what the Cardinals do at 3. I'm not going to ride. If Bijan's not drafted at 10, I'm not going to ride. It just depends on who they get. Now, if we get old school Howie, and all of a sudden we're looking at this draft board, I'm looking at the best available, and someone I'm just looking up and down, he reaches for Zay Flowers at 10, or, honestly, if he takes a tight end at 10, Broderick Jones, Georgia tackle at 10, names that we're not thinking about. Yeah, maybe we get a little upset if he reaches for somebody. But big picture, there's almost no chance how we could screw this up. There really isn't, because there's just too many options that are going to be on. When you have the 10th pick, you're already a Super Bowl team. You almost can't screw it up because you have the ability to take a little bit of a risk with somebody like Bijan. Look, so I looked before the draft. It won't refresh on my side screen right now. The Eagles are minus 105 to take a lineman with the 10th pick, which is Skoronski or Paris. What's his name? Let me pull that other screen up here. What's his name? Paris Johnson. So Skoronski or Johnson at 10 is the odds-on betting favorite with the Eagles' first pick. It's just going to be it just is. And then they're plus 100, the second most favorite, so even money to take a defensive lineman and or tackle. So most likely you're getting that interior draft. They're plus 300 to draft a running back, which is still really good odds. And then jumps all the way to plus 1,000 for a wide receiver. So the odds are it's going to be those linemen or Bijan Robinson. It's not going to be a cornerback. It's not going to be the safety. It's going to be those things. You think, he definitely needs a lineman. Is Paris Johnson better than Skoronski? I know everybody's talking about Skoronski's arms being short. I don't know. Kyler Murray needs protection. They need a running back in Arizona. DeAndre Hopkins might be out of there, so they might need a wide. They need a lot. I expect the Cardinals to trade back. I do, because they need too much to refresh around Kyler Murray. That they got to be a prime, somebody that wants the third best quarterback, whoever that may be, is going to look. Whether it's, let me pull up this board again. Again, Tampa doesn't probably have to move up that far. They're not going to be able to afford that. But maybe a team like the Texans take 2. The Titans, maybe they move from 11 up to 3. That's a very viable move. It wouldn't surprise me. The smart move is D-line or O-line, but every team needs to swing to beat Brady named Mahomes. Yeah, I mean, so the thing is, it's funny. You want to beat Mahomes, and you're the Eagles, and this is something I thought about. What always happens when a team is a contender year in and year out, and they can't beat one team? It doesn't matter what league and what sport we're talking about. You go into your next draft and free agency, and you try to load up on that position so that you can beat the team you're going to face. Why did we lose the Super Bowl to Kansas City? We lost the Super Bowl to Kansas City not because of the James Bradbury holding penalty. That wasn't it. That was one mistake just at a really crucial time of the game. But Bradbury and Slayer are still one of the best duos at cornerback in the NFL. We didn't win in the Super Bowl because our top-tier defensive line didn't get pressure on Patrick Mahomes. And it's not like the offensive line of the Chiefs was one of the best in football. They're really good, but they're not top 3 or 5. We had 70 sacks in the regular season, and we did not hit Patrick Mahomes and knock him down one time. So what do? You add more to the defensive line. You add more to ensure you keep a fresh rotation. When we won the Super Bowl in 2017, we did it because we had an excellent defensive line that nobody played more than 60% of the snaps. You don't want guys playing 68, 70% of snaps, because then by the time we get to the Super Bowl, they can't get off the line. They can't get the pressure on the quarterback. That is how you win, is you keep a fresh rotation on that line. Will Anderson, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, those guys do that. They take the best defensive line, pressure-wise, in the NFL last year, sack-wise, one of the greatest of all time last year, and make it better instantly. Make it fresher instantly. Keep the guys healthier, better instantly. Brandon Graham's going to be like 300 years old? You can't expect much more from him. And he was still a double-digit sack guy last year. So what do? You take your biggest weakness from the Super Bowl that you lost, and you make it better with a defensive lineman. But not only better this year, by drafting a defensive lineman or drafting an offensive lineman, you're just extending the life of this team. That's how you build a franchise in the interior line, offense and defense. That's how you do it. We're all swinging. Everybody wants to beat Mahomes. Look, I've said it before, I need a lot of football. He's already in my top 10 quarterbacks of all time, and he's only in his late 20s at this point. I mean, it's kind of insane. Mid-20s, late 20s, I don't even know. You might say he's 22, and I wouldn't shy away from that because he's still pretty young. But the thing is, you're all in. You're all in right now to win this Super Bowl, and you got to find a way to do it. You had him on the ropes last year, and we just didn't get the pressure, and that's the thing. Lost the Super Bowl because Jonathan Gannon made 0 adjustments. They had 10-point lead at halftime. Right, I get that. I get the Jonathan Gannon, and I get we hate Jonathan Gannon even more now after he spoke with the media in Arizona. But those guys on the line still had to get pressure. They got pressure all year without worrying about Jonathan Gannon's system. And honestly, let's think about it. Sean Desai is going to blitz less than Jonathan Gannon did. We know that. So it's up to the players to get pressure. Now, it could have been Jonathan Gannon's lack of adjustments. I'm not trying to stand up for Jonathan Gannon here at all. But what I'm saying is that maybe these guys were a little tired by the end of the year. They were playing too many snaps. You had a bunch of older guys on the line, going out and getting more guys on that line because Sean Desai is going to blitz less, which means your front 4, front 5 have to get even more pressure on their own. That's where Jalen Carter, Will Anderson, Nolan Smith, who's the other one? Van Ness or any of these guys come into play. Bijan put you over on an arm race. Look, again, we're going to keep talking Bijan for the next 20 minutes. I mean, it's crazy because the Phillies won last night. The Sixers are still waiting for Boston. Miami upset the Bucks last night and knocked them out of the playoffs. So much else happened in sports. But we are laser focused on this NFL draft today. And all we keep doing is going back to the Bijan conversation. Has there been a player for the Eagles in the NFL draft the day before, the weeks before the draft, as polarizing as Bijan Robinson? Like, you're either 110% the Eagles have to get him, or no, it would be stupid to get him. Like, I cannot remember a guy that had Eagles fans in so much up in arms before the draft. We might have mocked some of the guys as soon as the draft. Jalen Reagor, we all crushed it after it happened. But we weren't like, should we? Maybe the Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb year, maybe you're arguing over who the Eagles should get at wide receiver there. But we are in win now mode. Draft JSN. I love it. I love the wide receiver running back combo, my man. Lou, I'm not lying. I've been talking about that for 2 months now. Before I even started the show on this network, when I was on my former network, I was talking getting another wide receiver. Just make the greatest offense in football. And you already have a great defense. Just get them. I mean, Jackson Smith and the Joby in the slot, then pushes a Chuio or whatever the guy was, Zacharias to 4, and pushes Quez Watkins to the 5. You've got a deep wide receiver room now. And Jamar Gibbs, whether it's the other guy, or whether it's Bijan, you just go, I found a way to get both those guys, Bijan, JSN, and Jalen Carter. Just go all in. Make the best offense possible. JSN is going to be a really good wide receiver. He's going to be the best wide receiver in this class. You add him with Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. Because, again, A.J. Brown is going into year 2 of a 4-year contract. You got Devontae Smith up for another big contract at the end of this year. So another young, cheap, controllable wide receiver would not hurt. It would not hurt on this team. Drafted Super Bowl II, biggest event in pro sports. The draft is insane. It really is. Michael, they got to hit on these draft picks. So Michael, you say they got to hit. We had a conversation with somebody before here. Was it John? I believe it said, or no, Ryan said it, that we are so good we could take a risk at this time. That risk being Bijan Robinson. So they have to hit, but can they take that risk? That I thought that was a very interesting point brought up before in the comments. You know, you already had, if the Eagles traded away both their first-round picks, didn't even take a first-round pick, just on paper before the draft, this team is still the favorite to make the Super Bowl out of the NFC. Without drafting anybody in the first round, without adding Jalen Carter, Will Anderson, without adding any of those guys, they're still the favorite to win the NFC. You got to hit this pick. You got to get the right pick that gets you over the hump. But also, is there that opportunity to take a little risk? Whether it's Bijan, whether it's trading back and hoping one of these other blue chip players like Skoransky or Van Ness, whatever, falls all the way to, like, say, 19. Can you take that chance? And I think you can. I'm glad you agree. I appreciate that. You can hit it. You got to hit it, but you can take a little bit of risk right now. Exactly. And I don't want another player to come in the NFL that I like out of college to go to the team that I can't like him on. I just don't want it. I mean, look, I've already said it, Kyle. You've watched this show for a long time. I was a big fan of Dak Prescott coming out of college, coming out of Mississippi State, and I wanted him on the Eagles so bad. I really, really did. I was a big fan of his, and he went to the Cowboys, and I was so pissed off that that's where he went. And then obviously with what's his name, Micah Parsons going there. I wanted Micah Parsons so bad. If you remember, I was talking about trading up to like the top 5 to get Micah Parsons. Like, I just don't want another one of those blue chip players that I love, going to Dallas. And I would have a Micah Parsons jersey right now if he was on any other team but the Cowboys. I would. If Eagles are top 4, Chiefs, Bills, Bengals, and Eagles, because of the money on D-Hop. That's why they haven't traded for DeAndre Hopkins, Derrick Henry. Who are some of the other names that have been floated around there? Buda Baker, Devin White. It's because of money. See, the thing is, these guys are at the end of really expensive contracts, and they have huge cap hits. So not only do you have to work out a trade for DeAndre Hopkins, whatever it may be, but then you got to convince him to restructure that deal because you're not going to pay $18 million to DeAndre Hopkins this year. The Eagles just can't afford it. The Eagles, after draft picks, if they pick at 10, 30, and everything else with their schedule, if they don't trade draft picks, the Eagles have $14 million in cap space after their slotted prices for their current draft slots. Okay? $14 million, you can't get Henry or Hopkins. You got to make the trade and have a talk with the agent to make sure that they're going to take Hopkins $18 million next year and give him a 3-year extension where he makes 18 over the next 3, whatever it may be. That is why right there. Dak stinks in Dallas, but I think Dak would be better on a different team. I really do. Do you think Nakobe Dean can beat it? Awesome linebacker we need. Look, Nakobe Dean is going to be a Pro Bowl level player this year. I have zero doubt in my mind. I don't understand what I mean. I appreciate your question, Michael. I do, but there are so many Eagles fans. The Devin White situation, so many different situations with linebackers as free agency, and all the guys that the Eagles fans wanted to bring in. There's like everybody was clamoring for Nakobe Dean in the first round. He fell to the third round. We got him. Everybody was jumping up and down when we got Nakobe Dean in the third round. All year last year. Why isn't Nakobe Dean on the field? He needs to be on the field. Blah, blah, blah. And then the season ends, and now everybody's like, we need a linebacker. Nakobe Dean stinks. I've seen so many tweets, Michael, of Nakobe Dean stinks since the season ended. I'm like dumbfounded. Nakobe Dean, whether he slots outside and plays the weak side, or if he plays Mike, Nakobe Dean's going to be a beast on this defense. Nakobe Dean will have a better season this year in year 2 than Jordan Davis will. Mark it down right now. 9/17, April 27th, before draft day 1. Nakobe Dean will have a better season than Jordan Davis next year. I also put my mark on Milton Williams. Guys, we forget about Milton Williams. We're talking about this interior line that we got to improve. Milton Williams is going to have a much bigger role next year. Milton Williams and Nakobe Dean will have better seasons. I'm not saying Jordan Davis isn't a great player, but Milton Williams and Nakobe Dean will have a big picture impact on this team next year than Jordan Davis, because Jordan Davis is going to have to be protected snap-wise. He's not going to be able to play 60% of snaps. Nakobe Dean will have, like Kyle's saying here too, he will have a Pro Bowl season. Milton Williams, you think about it. You think about the snaps that he played last year. He had 4 or 5 sacks last year. He was only playing like 30% of the snaps. Milton Williams is going to make an impact, just like Nakobe Dean on this defense. So that's another side of the equation. You're talking about, do you draft Bijan Robinson? Well, you need Jalen Carter, Will Anderson. And those guys are obviously better prospects than Milton Williams. But you got Milton Williams, young. You got Jordan Davis, who you invested. You traded up to get Milton Williams or Jordan Davis last year. Milton Williams is a 3rd-round draft pick 2 years ago. You've invested some money on that D-line in assets, in draft picks. Maybe you take the running back at 10. Maybe you do it. I don't know. Never going to happen, but Trenton Simpson would be an amazing addition. Now, again, Marshawn Lynch, this is where my lack of knowledge is. I don't know who Trenton Simpson is. If he's in the top 20 here, I'll find him real quick. But he's not on ESPN's top 20 available, so I don't know who he is. That's where my lack of college information comes into play. That's our media. They always use pessimism. You'll never get pessimism. I might complain, or not complain. I might bring up negative topics, but we always discuss them in a very positive way on the show. That's why you watch this show instead of turning on WIP or those shows. We do the positive conversations on here, or we put positive spins on the conversation. I haven't heard this rumor, Jonah Williams from the Bengals, but I brought it up at the beginning of the show, John, that Howie trade. He shocked us with A.J. Brown last year. Is there a shock trade for a player tonight? Maybe. There's always a chance. I wouldn't be mad if they got Gibbs. Again, if they get a run, if they get one of the, I think it's weird that we're talking about getting one of the top running backs in the draft. I really do. But again, it's what I talk about, all positive except for, no, it's not Doc. Remember, there was a time where I banned Doc's name. You had to call him Glenn Rivers on the show because he lost his doctorate, in my opinion, of coaching. It's just funny that we're talking running backs. It is. Because it's something that we never had to worry about. But again, Howie Roseman, he's had 2 moves in his career as the Eagles GM. Interior line and wide receiver in the first round. So basically, interior line and a weapon. That's his move in the first round. You've got 2 stud weapons. 3, Dallas Goedert, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. Jackson Smith-Njigba would be a fantastic addition to this team. But a weapon, Bijan Robinson is a weapon. You almost can't consider Bijan Robinson a running back. You consider Bijan Robinson a weapon. Jahmyr Gibbs a weapon. You're trying to outscore your opponent in the NFL. It's an offensive-based league. It's a quarterback-driven league. You just gave your quarterback a crap ton of money. So what do? You give him the best opportunity to succeed. Howie Roseman failed that with Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz had a lot of issues, mentally, physically, with injuries, but also before the injuries started to pile up and before the negative stuff started to come out, they never surrounded him with weapons. They put him in positions to fail. And he still ran an MVP-level season in 2017. So you don't want to make the same mistake. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. You're destined to fail, and stuff like that. So you don't make the same mistake. You give Jalen Hurts every weapon possible. Bijan Robinson is the ultimate weapon in this draft. Gibbs and Jackson Njigba are the 2 next biggest weapons in this draft. You find a way to get one of those 3 players here, and you just outscore everybody. That's really what it is. I'm here for pizza advice too. Yeah, I always have, my pizza menu right here, ready to promote. Fox's Pizza, Kennett Square. Come see me. Come talk NFL. Come talk football, baseball, basketball. Whatever it may be, and I will do it. If been high on Trenton, then Clemson kid, he's a monster. I love it. I mean, the thing is, so we could take risk, but there's going to be so many great players that fall to the Eagles in so many positions. It is the most unpredictable first round for this Eagles team. It really is. I watched Texas games this year for Bijan, and I never watched college ball. He's that kind of a talent. It makes people gravitate towards him. 120%. That's why it's Glenn Rivers, and that's it for me. I like the Robinson idea over the Henry. Absolutely. The only way I trade for Derrick Henry, and I'll put this out here again. I've said it before. The only way I do Derrick Henry is if Bijan we cannot get. If somebody else falls, so we can't get Gibbs. If we don't get Gibbs or Robinson, but we still load up. Say we get Jalen Carter. I'm just making this up. Say we get Jalen Carter and Brian Branch. I'm just making up 2 random names that have been linked to the Eagles. Won't be there 10 and 30, but just say. That's what happens. If you could trade next year's 4th and 5th round pick for Derrick Henry, it sounds very little, but if you could do that, that's what I'm in the range of trading future picks, late future picks, and you extend him to a contract so he's not taking up the rest of your cap space. It's the only way I do Derrick Henry. I'm not risking anything of this year, and I'm not paying him the $15, $18 million a year he's scheduled to make. There's a rumor you trade for him, you restructure him at $6 million a year for 3 years. Fine. If you're trading a 5th, you got 5 5th-round picks next year. You got 12 picks overall next year. Use a 4th and a 5th. That's it. I'm not even giving up a future 3rd for Derrick Henry at this point. Not at 29. Not at all that kind of stuff. I would sure love another Westbrook player. Sure. Absolutely. Who wouldn't? I doubt you want me to talk football while you're trying to get out of orders. Hey, I love it. I've had a few people from this show pop in randomly just to say hi at my pizza shop, and I don't see their names, and they come in and like, hey, how you doing, Phil? And I'm like, who are you? And I'm like, I don't know who you are. And then they say their name on the show, and I'm like, gotcha. Is Gibbs the guy there and calling shady too? There's 2 guys. Gibbs is there at 30. You might take him. There's another guy. Again, Kyle, you'll remind me that I had on Brendan Deeg last week. He compared to Shady McCoy. Gibbs is like Shady McCoy, but there's a guy that's more like Shady McCoy, more shifty. So that's an option. Yeah, catering order. I got a catering order tonight. My wife went in an extra hour early so that I could do this show. Spears is it. We had 3 large hoagie trays that have to be out of the door by 10:30. So my wife went in at 8:30 this morning to work on them so that I can still do the show and not miss the draft show, the pre-draft show. I got 35 pizzas to make by 10:30 tomorrow. She's going in at 8 a.m. tomorrow to make them so I don't miss this show. Just for you guys. That's what I do. Spears is the guy that's more shady-like than Gibbs, but Gibbs is the better player, I think, overall, and the better prospect than Spears. It's a lot more on bucket barbecue. I love barbecue wings. I make a great barbecue sauce, just so you know. Barbecue wings are the best. You know what you got to do with your barbecue sauce when you do your wings? You got to cook the wings. You got to put the barbecue sauce, and you put them on a pan and run them through the oven. No foil or anything. And then the barbecue sauce kind of burns to the pan and the bottom of the wings. And you get like a burnt barbecue flavor. I love it. I love it. My wife is the absolute best in the world. She knows I love this. She knows this is important to me. And she does a little extra work in the morning when we get catering orders so that I also let her adopt and foster dogs. If you hear the dogs barking, it's because we got 4 freaking dogs in my house right now. So I let her do her thing. She lets me do her thing. It's been 17 years, so I know I've got a good keeper there. Plus, she controls all the money. She knows the bank account numbers. I don't. She bounces the checkbook. I don't. I know my cell phone number, and I got a credit card. I don't even know my PIN numbers for my debit cards. I don't. She is the best. Absolutely. And she puts up with watching sports nonstop. It's a little trick I do. If you go to your local pizza shop up there in Buffalo or Northern New York and they cook your wings and then tell them after they're barbecued and cooked, put them on a pan. No foil, just right on a pan. It'll burn the pan up like crazy. You put them right on the pan. You run them through the oven. Get that little burnt barbecue taste. I love it. I love it. We're getting off on a barbecue. It's football season. So we got to talk. It's the draft. I actually have to put a post up on my business's Facebook page. Get some wings to watch your draft party tonight. Hey, I appreciate that. I appreciate you tuning in. This is what we do every morning, 8:30 a.m. Sometimes when there's a lot to talk about, I'll even go early, a little longer. And if we have shows like yesterday and today where the viewership is out, yesterday I had 250 some people watch. I've never had that on YouTube before. I had 45, 50 people yesterday watching at one time. As long as people tune in, I keep doing it. And all we do is talk. We have guests sometimes, whatnot. But the point of this show is to hear what you guys have to say. This is not like the radio channels where you get 30 seconds to talk, and if they don't like your opinion, they hang up and laugh at you. Everybody's opinion's warranted and wanted to discuss in a positive way. I love the power of positivity. I can't talk more. Pizza. My family owns Scotto's Pizza in Berlin, New Jersey. Hey, shout out to that. Hey, you know what I go through on a daily basis. The life of a pizza shop owner. I've been in business for 15 plus years now. It ain't easy. It isn't. This is I wouldn't survive. The last 3 years I started doing podcasting. This is actually the 3-year anniversary. I recorded a pre-recorded podcast with an old partner of mine right after the Eagles drafted Jalen Hurts and the 2020 draft. We did a draft recap, and that's where it all started 3 years ago. But I think that saved my sanity doing these shows. Well, we have 2 dogs of our own that we adopted, and we're fostering 2 more at right now. And they're all old dogs because we are the retirement home for dogs. My wife and I, we have a affinity to save the old dogs that people don't want. They just drop them off in shelters, and then the shelters are just going to put them down because they're older and no one will adopt them. So we take them in. We call ourselves the retirement home for dogs. We're basically the hospice care for dogs in this house, basically. We got a 15-year-old, a 13-year-old, a 9, and a 10-year-old right now in our house. So, yeah. The barking is normally because the one that barks a lot is deaf and she can't hear what's going on. So anyway, so we're just gonna wrap it up there. I think we've gotten through enough of this conversation. What is going to happen tonight? Is it going to be Bijan? Is it going to be Jalen Carter? Will Anderson trade up, trade back, stay? We still have not agreed. We have not figured out anything today because it is so unpredictable. When we go live tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. I got Shane Half joining me at 9 a.m. from Bleeding Green Nation. Chalk Talk host. Great guy, knows the ins and outs of these guys. Who were we going to be talking about? Who is going to be the guy that we say we got? The only thing I'm going to end this show with, what's going to piss me off? Because I get up early to do this show. I got to stay up late tonight till the end of the draft because the Eagles pick at 30. Let me tell you something. If the Eagles are at 30 and all of a sudden they trade out of the first round tomorrow, I'm going to be so pissed they stayed up so late and they didn't pick at 30. Hey, I appreciate it. Thank my wife. She's the one that does all the hard work with the dogs. She does. We're linked with a bunch of rescues, and we try to help out as much as we don't have kids. We're older. We don't have kids. We have a huge piece of property, a big house that we rent here, and we do our best to save those that need it because, if the one dog we adopted, he was, old man Al, he basically had fleas and itched himself raw, and they didn't want to take care of him anymore, so they dumped him off. And he had no hair left on him because he scratched himself raw. So we took care of him. We got rid of the fleas, and he's been with us for 3 years now. The greatest dog in the world. So we try our best to take care of the dogs. If you follow me on Twitter, I do occasionally share some things that, some promotions to help, the fosters and the rescues. So, draft 5, I'm on the bandwagon. Yeah, I mean, let's do it. Guys, let's just end the show right there. Let's get Bijan. The Bijan train carries on. Yeah, appreciate that. Let's just get Bijan. Get Bijan. Hey, we'll see you tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m. Hey, maybe I'll go live at 8:15. I don't know, but we will be live tomorrow at 8:30, at least. And stay tuned. Make sure you like, you subscribe, you turn the notifications on every morning, 8:30 a.m. I am Phil Stifle. You can follow me on Twitter at Bearded Knowledge for Philadelphia Sports Network. Y'all have a great day. Yo, the Bijan train rolls on. Let's get Bijan Robinson tonight.